talk a little about this letter that you asked for. I think we all in the budget hawk community were very interested in the intellectual honesty
Yeah,
behind asking for this letter from CBO about the permanent extension of the tax cuts, and maybe
well, and there were
what
two
prompted you to
moving,
ask for that.
yeah, you're being very smart. There were really two moving parts in our request. So let's do them backwards. Um, our office and myself personally, I have almost a burning terror of something called interest rate fragility. If interest rates were to start to move against us, how quickly it takes down the US budget system. Because when you have to refinance 9 to 10 trillion, because we stay very short on the curve, which means we sell our debt in very short durations. And there's almost no appetite right now for 10s and 20 and 30-year bonds that would help us get beyond our demographic bubble. And one of our models has us borrowing another 2.3 trillion this year on top of it. That's new issuances. So small movements of interest rates just consume you. So we were asking the Congressional Budget Office saying, okay, couple things. What if we were to extend the expiring tax provisions and not pay for them? We borrowed the money. What does that do to debt deficits and economic growth? Because Congressional Budget Office has already built a model saying if you want to maximize economic growth, find a way to find offsets to pay for those expiring tax provisions. Because in their model, when you pull another $5 trillion out of capital markets, that's money that doesn't go to start the new business, to help you buy a house, those things, because your federal government is consuming much of the world's cash, borrowable money. Then we added what happens if interest rates go up 1%. And what was fascinating is we think we broke their model on the 30-year. You'll notice they get to 250% of debt to GDP in the 30-year window, and then point out that their model doesn't go beyond that.
You did. We talked to Phil Swagel, and he was like, "Yeah, we just hit a point where we couldn't model it anymore, and so we just cut it down, cut off, shut it off."
But why? So you're one of the only folks, other than one or two reporters that seem to own calculators, who've even taken an interest in this. This should have set off alarm bells. Oh, dear heaven, we're actually dealing with policy right now that blows up our modeling computers because it's so much debt and so much cost, we cannot even make the data systems manage it.
And it's within 30 years.
Oh, and even the 10-year
far off.
but even the 10-year number
Yeah.
was terrifying. Because think about all the things that happen in the next 10 years. Baseline, we're going to borrow 22 trillion additional in that 10 years. We now just got a Senate reconciliation budget. Remember, the whole reason for reconciliation, 1974 Budget Control Act, is to get around the filibuster in the Senate. You don't require 60 votes. You can do it with 51 votes. Okay, so that's why we do all this dance. But it's one of the few times in anyone's congressional career you get to actually look at mandatory spending and see if there's better, faster, more efficient ways to do those programs. But if you do what the Senate just sent us, which 5.8 trillion, functionally not just borrow it, you stick that on top, and then you add in a couple of the other presidential requests. We still have disaster issues in California, all these other things we haven't paid for yet. There's a model that says in this next 10 years, we may borrow, if you look at publicly borrowed money, fairly close to what we had borrowed in the previous 240 years. So the curve is steepening dramatically. Yet the public wants things and they think there's magic money out there. That's not how it works.